It was a warm June evening in a bustling American city, the kind where the streets buzzed with people heading home from work, grabbing dinner, or running errands. Among them was Marcus Johnson, a 25-year-old African-American man who had stopped by the local grocery store to pick up some essentials for his mother. Marcus was a recent college graduate, working as a volunteer coordinator for a community nonprofit. Known for his quiet demeanor, sharp mind, and deep pride in his heritage, he carried himself with a calm confidence. Marcus lived in a modest apartment with his mother, Evelyn Johnson, a high school teacher who had raised him alone after his father's passing a few years earlier. Evelyn had always instilled in him the importance of dignity. "Hold your head high, son," she'd say. "Your worth isn't defined by how others see you, but by who you are." That evening, Marcus walked into the grocery store with a list in hand: milk, bread, sugar, rice, and some vegetables. The store was crowded, with shoppers weaving through the aisles, their carts clattering against the tiled floor. Marcus grabbed a basket and began checking off items, unaware that this routine errand was about to turn into a moment that would ripple through his life and beyond. Marcus was reaching for a loaf of bread when a loud voice sliced through the store's background noise. "Hey, what are you doing here?" The words were sharp, dripping with hostility. Marcus turned to see an older man, likely in his late 60s, glaring at him. The man, later identified as Harold Thompson, was a retired city worker known in the neighborhood for his gruff attitude and outdated views. His face was flushed, and his eyes narrowed as he stepped closer to Marcus. Marcus blinked, caught off guard. He had no recollection of ever meeting this man. "Excuse me, sir, I'm just shopping," he said, keeping his tone polite but firm, hoping to defuse the situation. "Shopping?" Harold spat, his voice laced with sarcasm. "People like you don't belong in a place like this." The words hit like a punch, and Marcus felt a familiar sting, the kind of prejudice he'd encountered before, though it never got easier. Shoppers around them froze, their eyes darting toward the scene. A few pulled out their phones, sensing something was about to escalate. Marcus took a deep breath, recalling his mother's advice to stay calm in the face of anger. "Sir, I'm just here to get groceries for my mom. I think there's been a misunderstanding." But Harold wasn't having it. He raised his cane, waving it menacingly. "Misunderstanding? I'll teach you a lesson you won't forget," he shouted, his voice booming through the aisles. "I'll whip you right here." The threat sent a shockwave through the crowd. A mother nearby pulled her child closer, her eyes wide with concern. A young couple whispered to each other, their faces a mix of disbelief and discomfort. Marcus's heart pounded, but he stood his ground. He knew reacting in anger would only make things worse. "Sir, please, we're all just trying to go about our day," he said, his voice steady despite the tension. "There's no need for this." The commotion grew louder as Harold continued his tirade. "You people always cause trouble," he yelled, his words heavy with racial venom. The accusation was baseless, but it cut deep. Marcus felt the weight of every stare, some sympathetic, some curious, and others uncomfortably silent. A teenage girl filming on her phone gasped as Harold's rant continued. A young man in a baseball cap muttered to his friend, "This guy's lost it." An elderly woman shook her head, clutching her purse tightly. The store's atmosphere had shifted from casual to charged, and Marcus could feel the tension wrapping around him like a heavy fog. Just as the situation seemed to spiral out of control, the store manager, Tom Reynolds, hurried over. Tom, a no-nonsense man in his 40s, was respected for keeping the store a welcoming place for everyone. He'd been behind the counter when he heard the shouting and immediately recognized the need to step in. "Mr. Thompson, that's enough," Tom said, his voice calm but carrying authority. "You need to lower your voice and step back. This is a grocery store, not a place for arguments." Harold turned his glare on Tom, but the manager didn't flinch. Turning to Marcus, Tom asked, "Are you okay, sir?" When Marcus arrived at his apartment, he set the grocery bags on the kitchen counter and told his mother everything. Evelyn listened quietly, her face a mix of concern and pride. When he finished, she pulled him into a hug. "You did good, Marcus," she said. "You kept your cool, and that takes strength. There are always going to be people like that, but you showed them who you are." Marcus nodded, though the weight of the encounter still sat heavy on his shoulders. "It's just exhausting, Mom. Why does it always have to be like this?" Evelyn sighed, her eyes soft but resolute. "Because some people carry hate in their hearts, and they don't know how to let it go. But you, Marcus, you're bigger than that. You keep being you, and that's how you change things." The video goes viral. By the next morning, the incident had exploded online. Someone had uploaded the video to social media, captioned, "Racist Outburst at Local Grocery Store." It racked up thousands of views within hours, spreading across platforms like wildfire. Comments flooded in, condemning Harold's behavior and praising Marcus for his composure. "This guy's a class act," one user wrote. "That old man should be ashamed," said another. The video sparked a heated discussion online. Some called for Harold to face consequences, while others pointed out the broader issue of racism in everyday spaces like grocery stores. Marcus was stunned when he saw the video trending. He hadn't expected his quiet trip to the store to become a public spectacle. A local news outlet reached out to Marcus for an interview. At first, he hesitated. He wasn't one for attention, and he didn't want this moment to define him. But Evelyn encouraged him. "Your voice matters, Marcus," she said. "People need to hear from you, not just about you." Marcus agreed to the interview, where he spoke candidly about the incident. "I just wanted to buy groceries," he said. "I didn't go in there looking for trouble. But when trouble comes, you've got to handle it with grace. That's what my mom taught me." His words resonated deeply, striking a chord with viewers across the city. The story prompted community leaders to organize town halls and workshops to address prejudice and promote understanding. Marcus became an active participant, using his platform to advocate for change. He partnered with his nonprofit to launch a campaign called Shop with Respect, encouraging businesses to foster inclusive environments where everyone felt welcome. As for Harold, rumors circulated that he'd apologized to a few neighbors, though he never reached out to Marcus directly. Some said he was humiliated by the public backlash, while others believed he was too stubborn to admit fault. Marcus, however, chose not to dwell on him. "I forgive him," he told a friend. "Not for his sake, but for mine. I'm not carrying that hate with me." The grocery store incident became a turning point not just for Marcus, but for the entire community. It sparked conversations that had long been overdue, forcing people to confront uncomfortable truths about prejudice and division. Marcus emerged as a quiet but powerful voice, inspiring others to stand up with dignity in the face of hate. The store itself became a symbol of change. Tom, the manager, implemented new training for staff on handling conflicts and fostering inclusivity. The community rallied around the idea that every space, every grocery store, every street corner should be a place where everyone feels safe and respected. Marcus continued his work with renewed purpose, driven by a belief that change starts with small acts of courage. The incident, though painful, had lit a spark. It reminded him, and those around him, that even in the face of ugliness, there was power in standing tall, staying calm, and choosing love over hate. In the end, Marcus's story wasn't just about a confrontation in a grocery store. It was about resilience, community, and the quiet strength it takes to rise above. It was a reminder that even in the most ordinary moments, there's an opportunity to make a difference. One person, one choice, one stand at a time.